Dye. Here. Gentleman. Here. LaPointe.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
White.
Here.
Solinger.
Here. As in any meeting, one of the first items of the agenda is limited public comments. We do have a microphone John has, so if you want to make a limited public comment, we'll bring the mic to you. So at this time, does anybody have any opening comments they can make? Virginia. Oh, by the way, please state like your name and address when you do.
Hello, Virginia Teagle, 4810 Bartlett. You're all here tonight because of concern about the roads, which has been a long-standing issue in Acme Township, and I commend the board for addressing this issue. One of the reasons is because when the developers built this, they did not build adequate roads, and the roads were not really designed for the use they're getting, and also the additional use through the extensive development, which I believe it's about half the residents of Acme Township live in Holiday Hills. So I am here because I have some questions for the board regarding another big issue that's larger than Acme Township, the stormwater control on the VGT site. And at the special meeting in October, I think it was October 2nd, a number of people asked the board for transparency. And so I noticed that when I was looking at the website today, the board has updated the farmland preservation past. Thank you very much for that. And they also had a blurb about this issue. There's still nothing on the main page so that residents can easily get information. I understand and I appreciate that on the Acme Future site, there are a number of documents. However, in the interest of transparency, I will ask again that that information be put on the main page, even if it's a blurb with a link to Acme Future. So, it's also come to my attention from the citizens group that there is a special study session scheduled next Tuesday, December 2nd at 6 p.m. On the website, it still says 7 p.m. I would like to know, is there a study session? If so, what is the goal of the study session? And also, I looked at the Acme Future site. I noticed that the violation notice from the DEQ was issued on October 21st. On October 27th, there was a site visit by the DEQ with issues still left unresolved. The latest report from Chris Grobel was from November 10th. There's a number of issues in that report from November 10th. And it's now 2 weeks later, and I don't know the status of what's happening with this issue that will impact Acme for years to come. We've invested $10 million, I've already stated that, on our shoreline, and I asked for a visit on site. Not one person from the township did me the professional courtesy after my years of serving on the Planning Commission to invite me to personally witness what's going on that site. Also, we do have a stormwater control ordinance in Acme Township. It's a police power ordinance. I'll do some more homework before the next meeting and submit a document in writing. But we have an Acme Township ordinance for stormwater control. It says things like upland construction areas shall be completely stabilized. Infiltration system volume should be designed to store runoff from back-to-back 100-year storms. Earth changes shall be staged to keep the exposed area of soil as small as practical. Critical areas exposed during construction shall be protected, and so on and so forth. I would like to encourage our township to take charge of this issue, just like you are with the roads in Holiday Hills. The county has not helped us out. The DEQ has multiple responsibilities across the state of Michigan. The Township Board has a responsibility to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our water quality, just like our roads. And please let me know if we have a special meeting so I can play my time for next week.
Thank you. Would you ask everybody to try to keep their comments to 3 minutes? I will answer one of your questions tonight, Virginia, and yes, there is a study session on December 2nd, starts at 6 to 7. It will be a review by the VGT folks, John I, of status of many of the questions you've asked or other things like that. So that's what that full study session is about. So thank you. Anybody else getting comments? Hearing none, I'll close the public comments at this, limited public comment at this time. Come back to the board have approval of the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion for that?
Jay, I'd like to make one change.
Yes.
Under new business, item number 1, F1, I think should be moved to the bottom because it only makes sense to follow through with that resolution if we pass resolutions 3 and 4.
That's fine. I understand. Okay. Anybody else? Any other changes? Anybody in the audience? Otherwise, I need a motion to approve agenda with that correction.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Inquiry from the board of any conflicts of interest tonight. Anybody? Hearing none, we'll move on to our public hearing. Tonight, we are here to talk about a sad district development. Gordy is going to lead some of that discussion, and most of that discussion with help. Gordy has been the leader for our township on this issue, working with other citizens like Rachel Rowe, John, and Kurt back here. So we've had a lot of citizen input in many meetings. We have met with the road commission many times with citizens. We appreciate those that have come to those meetings. So we'll talk about a little bit about that tonight. And we do have two visitors, Garth Greenier from the road commission and Pat Middleton from our engineering department. So they're here tonight to also assist us. Gordy, I'll turn it over to you.
Pat was the one that was up in Holiday Hills back in September. He's on contract with the road commission, KPM Engineering, and he did the preliminary engineering study. And it's his firm that is the one that we would engage working through the road commission to do the actual engineering study should we go forward. I guess I've got a question. How many people here were at the holiday ski resort meeting that we had back a couple months ago? Okay, a fair number. There was a lot of information that was given out at that meeting. I'm not going to go back over that, but I just would like to give everybody just a kind of go over the schedule of what's transpired so far, what we're attempting to accomplish tonight, and where do we go in the next couple of weeks with this project. This will just take a few minutes before we get started. This was really a citizen-driven project. This was not something the township board, myself, or anybody else said, hey, let's create a special assessment district up in Holiday Hills. It was actually the spring of 2013. Residents came in, were asking various questions about the possibility of what should we do up there, what can we do, what are our options. There were several meetings that summer. It's been a long time we've been working on it. Summer of 2013, discussions where we sat down and just discussed what are the next steps forward. There's nobody on this commission or on this board or citizens have had any prior experience with the creation of a SAD. So this was very much a learn as you go on how should we proceed. So we had, like I say, these very informal, just discussions with some neighbors. What do you think? What should be the scope? What are our options? And that, after talking about amongst ourselves, we thought sounds like a reasonable plan. But before we go further, we should have some informal meetings. And these weren't board meetings, but we had 3 meetings in the winter of 2013, early spring of 2014. One was focused on the folks on birchwood, or paper birch. Then we had timberwood was a session. Then we had another one with everybody else. So we kind of went over the options, and we simply asked the question, if you do a SAD, you're going to pay the bulk of the cost. Here's what we think the costs are. Is this something you're interested in? Should we proceed? Because if 3 or 4 people want to proceed, but it doesn't seem to resonate beyond that, we simply didn't want to go through the effort. And we probably had a dozen people, I would guess, at each of those sessions, very informal, and asked the question at the end of it, is this something we should continue with? And I would say the vast majority of people said yes, we should proceed and go further. So at that time, we got back to the board, and since we didn't have a procedure on the creation of SAD in the spring, summer of this year, we created a procedure for the creation of a special assessment district. Then fast forward to, what was the date? I wrote it down here. October 9th, we had the informal meeting at Mount Holiday to again gauge the public, and we had the road commission there. Again, there's an informational meeting to say, okay, you know, what's the interest level there? A lot of good questions, a lot of dialogue, pro and con on it. The board decided based upon that to proceed, and we did the initial expression of interest survey that you were all sent back in early November, or mid-November, I guess it was. October was sent out. Came back November 4th. Where, as you recall, we asked, you know, your interest level in the creation of SAD. We laid out what the cost would be, and we set some guidelines in terms of what would cause the board to go forward. We sent it out to 198 parcels, property owners. We got over 70% response. You never get 70% response to anything. We had 70%, over 70% response, and over 75% of those responding said yes, we're in favor of a going forward. So that's what caused us, that's why we're here today. Now that was kind of all informal, now we're kind of operating under the guidelines of the state statute in the creation of the SAD. So we're now on a track that we don't control, but it's a track that is dictated to us by the very statutes in the creation of a special assessment district. To create a special assessment district, there's a requirement of 5 resolutions that a board has to approve. At the last board meeting, we approved the first 2 resolutions to carry this forward. The first resolution was the declaration of an intent to create a special assessment district. Resolution 2 was to call this meeting, which the law mandates you have such a meeting, and they mandate you send out notices with the appropriate information, you post it in the newspaper. You all saw those full-page ads that you have to run by law twice within a certain time period. So that's where we are today. We sent out the notices, we published it in the paper, and we're going to have the public hearing this evening, where you get a chance to get up and voice your support for the SAD, your concerns, should we go forward with the SAD, or ask any questions that we may be able to answer, or the engineers may be able to answer concerning any questions you may have. At the end of the public hearing this evening, it'll come back to the board, and the board will vote based upon what they've heard, etc., on resolutions 3 and 4. Resolution 3 would be approval of the special assessment district. Resolution 4 would call for the second public hearing, which would be out in December. And you'll be getting a notice, if we proceed, of that second public hearing, what the purpose of that hearing is, and it gives you some guidelines going forward on that. After that public hearing, there's resolution 5, and it's kind of then the work begins, and it's kind of a done deal. So that's where we are in the process. So with that, I guess, unless Is there any clarification of something I might have skipped over?
I was going to say, the meeting in December, the next meeting, if we move forward as we hope to do tonight, as you, I hope, want to do tonight, would be December 11th, right here in this building. So we have room for the people who want to be here. Dan Kelly, who runs the Williamsburg Theater, we should all thank for his generosity to allow us to use this facility. It's a great facility in Acme Township. Some of you have been here for meetings, parties, get-togethers, but it works out well for this also. So if you know Dan, thank him. We appreciate his generosity as a township. But December 11th, would that be that date? That's what the public next announcement Gordy talked about in Resolution 4 will talk about. But just so if you get your calendar or your iPad, however you keep track of that, or you wait till the mailing, that would be the date for that meeting.
Probably 6 or 7 in the evening.
Yes, 7 actually is what it's
7,
said.
okay.
Yes, good question. We thought about 6. We weren't sure for people that work still and people that are tied up with things, is it 6 or 7? We just kept it at 7 because that's our normal board time. So, and because we have to make these announcements so far ahead of time, it's not something we can change a week or two ahead. You know, we've got to make publications and announcements in the papers. With that, Gordy, I think we ought to open to some comments. Is there anything else you want to, or anything else the board wants to say before we do that? Make sure everybody answers. Again, at the comment, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We're here to try to answer questions if there are any. We would like to know your name and address. It's helpful to us to know where the comments come from. That's why we ask people to sign in tonight. We appreciate you doing
Jay,
that.
let me make one comment, clarification. I'm sure somebody would ask this question, but if they don't, I'd like to clarify, because it was asked at the Holiday Hills meeting, or at the ski resort meeting. The question was, do I have an option to prepay versus going on? The special assessment district, we had set up the plan would be a 15-year, your costs would be spread over 15 years. And of course, we would bond for it, and there would be interest. So I didn't know the answer at that time, but yes, you'll be given an opportunity, and we'll reveal that and how that will work out. If you choose to pay up front, we'll give you a window of opportunity to make that payment, and of course you will avoid the interest on the bond. The second question that came up was people saying, what happens if I chose to do a finance, in essence, over 15 years, and after 10 years, I decide to sell the property, and I want to just keep this very simple, I want to pay the thing off. The question was, can I prepay it at that point in time without any interest or any penalty? And the answer is yes. There's a procedure where you could come, meet with the clerk, they would do a payout just like you would on a mortgage. So you can, in fact, prepay. So those were 2 questions. At the time, I didn't know the answer, but I just want to make sure that was covered.
As you have questions, I think we have one first, but hold your hand up and we'll try to catch you as you're done. So right here's our first one, and then there's a gentleman in the back next.
Good evening. My name is John Morris. I live at 4275 Paper Birch. I again want to thank the board for all your work on this project. I know you said it was citizen initiated, but you still had to step up and help us work through this whole process. So I take my hat off to you and thank you for doing so. I have just 2 points to make. Number one, I'm talking to the rest of the citizens here in the meeting room. I think it's vitally important that we get our streets repaired because of the impact on the value of our homes. If we end up with streets that are little more than broken up gravel roads, I think it'll significantly impact the value of our property. And so I think we'd be foolish not to do this work and do it now. It's frankly long overdue. My other point is that I've only lived here for a little over 2 years, but I understood there was maybe in the past an attempt to increase property taxes in order to address road repairs in the township. My understanding is that didn't go anywhere. And even if we had accomplished that, I think we would have ended up having to wait who knows how long to see the repairs made to the streets that really matter to us up in Holiday Hills. There are other priorities in the township, no doubt, and additional millage revenues would have eventually gotten around to the repairs, but the good news is we'll get our roads fixed if everything goes smoothly here this next year in 2015. That's exciting to me to get it done and done so quickly. I realize people who've been working on this project for several years maybe don't think it's so quickly, but it really is when you consider that we're getting down to the brass tacks now, and by next fall, less than a year from now, our roads will be repaired. That's exciting to me. Thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman clear in the back.
Yeah, I'm Mike Crowley, I live at 3409 Basswood, up in Holly Hills. You know, when I went to the first meeting that I attended last January 25th, I think it was, we were looking at 206 people, or 206 properties in this last bit of correspondence we got. It addresses just 198 of them. The houses that were on Cedarwood have pulled out, and Audubon, 3 houses have pulled out. Could we maybe give the fire department keys to a guardrail or something to keep the Cedarwood people out of our place and force the Audubon people to get another way in and out of their suburb? I've lived where I live on in Basswood for probably 20, 22 years. Been really happy there. I guess we need the roads repaired. We need them fixed. And the cost isn't going to screw me up that bad in my lifestyle. But, you know, when we got 206 properties here, even in the October meeting, and now Cedarwood's gone, Audubon's gone. What happened with that? Those people, you know, the Audubon people, the 3 houses that were part of that at one time, they just pulled the plug on their houses. They wrangle out of it, and the Cedarwood wrangles out of it.
I can answer that. You know, going back to when we first were looking at the creation of the Special Assessment District, again, we had nothing to base our planning on, and there was discussion of doing everything. There was discussion of let's just get our feet wet and do one road. And then we said, well, let's just do Greenwood. And it was a lot of give and take on this whole thing. And at some point, you have to draw the line. We could have continued on Cedarwood over to that other section and made this thing so big and so unmanageable that we would have never got anything. This doesn't preclude them at some future date, if they see this thing working, to go ahead with it. On Audubon, maybe there's some confusion because that original map showed Audubon on it. Audubon's a private road. They pay for their own snow plowing. When it's time to replace that road, they will have to pay for it themselves. However, that being said, they will utilize and gain benefit from a portion of paper birch as they come down through there and make that right-hand turn on Greenwood going out. Since they're a private road, to try to include them in a special assessment district, I haven't found an attorney yet that said that's something you want to look at. But that being said, they understand, and I've met with their homeowners association about the benefit they will derive from this improvement. I presented a formula to them 2 weeks ago on what would be a fair share of theirs to ante up to the project. I'm not going to go into the detail, but to say they should pay something is a fair statement. But whenever you go to somebody and say you should pay something, I want to go with a real hard number that I can back up through a formula and say, this is the number. I presented that to them, They were extremely receptive. I'm very encouraged that they will do that. They're working through their homeowners association, and I've given them a target of March to participate. Strictly voluntary. And so they've been very accommodating.
And I guess, that somewhat satisfies me, but on wild juniper, if you take wild juniper all the way towards that end of the cul-de-sac, is that piece of property dropped down the hill 5 miles still in dispute, or how all these people gonna get to their houses if somebody?
Well,
I mean, is that private over there too?
we talked early on with the folks at Wild Juniper and said, do you want, your road's not in that good a shape. And we said, do you want to participate? And we thought it'd be advantageous because you would leverage if you did one big project versus if 3 years from now they said, hey, we want to do a SAD, the cost would probably be higher due to re-engineering, et cetera, et cetera. They pulled they came back to us, the head of their homeowners association, and said they didn't have an appetite for this. And the long and the short of it is, because of the legal issue, my opinion, just kind of as we were discussing this, due to some of the issues up there and some of the legal issues, for the sake of getting most of this, what we want to accomplish, to draw some folks in who may be litigious, I think we made the right decision.
That was done twice, by the way. We asked them twice, not just once, but twice.
Yeah, just my 2 cents.
No, that's a fair
No,
question.
that's an excellent question as to why they aren't, but it's long and hard look at that.
Hi, I'm Rick Cooper, 4635 Paper Birch. I was president of the North Point Access Road Association while this whole thing was going on. Let me update you with what has happened in that process. When we first had that road closed, we sought injunctive relief, and it was the courts, and a number of the neighbors, including most of the neighbors in the North Point number 1, which includes all of Wild Juniper and the cul-de-sac of Paper Birch, which is in the cul-de-sac of Paper Birch is included in this SAD district. At that time, we went through a 1.5 years worth of court relief, and we end up incurring about $47,000 worth of attorney bills, which were paid for by some contributions from everybody, mostly from the people in North Point number 1. When it went to the judge and finally to a settlement agreement with the property owner of the road, which is the winding thing, the judge, we came to an agreement that we would settle with and pay the owner of that property $20,000 and we ended up paying not all of the attorney bill, but I think that we figured that we have about $65,000 that 13 people in that neighborhood have paid for to keep that road open. Part of the settlement is that road can never be closed. Part of the settlement is that the only legal people that can use that are the 40 owners of property in North Point number 1, which is all the Wild Juniper and the Paper Birch cul-de-sac. Those are the only people that are supposed to use it, but there's nobody that can stop anybody from using it. People have been using it for years, and there wasn't an intent to stop people, but there is a cost that several of us have made and invested. And if you divide 13 people into $47,000, that's a pretty good chunk. So you can see the reluctance of people wanting to pay. They've already paid their $3,500 to $4,000 apiece to keep that road open for everybody to use. And still, we have about $1,500 a year in maintenance cost to cover it. That means that each of us pays another $150 a month to keep that road open for everybody. So that's kind of where we're with that on that. They said that we have to keep a sign on it. The fact that, looking at it from a litigious standpoint, all we want to do is keep the road open. And the problem that we had before is gone. Now, that road can never be closed. And the owner moved out. He's moved downstate. To my knowledge, he's still paying the taxes on that property. But we have to have an insurance policy on that we pay for about $900 a year, and we keep the snowplow. We have no liability. We have no. Honestly, it's the sign says don't use it. That's essentially what it says, and if there's nobody going to stop you from using it. But again, keep in mind that there's a lot of people that have sacrificed to make sure that people have a way to use that, and a lot of people use that road to get out. And there was no intent to exclude anybody from using it. That's just the way the court came out and said that. So that we didn't try to wind up with that result to limit anybody, and we continue to have that road open. So that just gives you a little background.
Thanks for the update. Okay, we appreciate that. Anybody else have a question? One over here.
Now I have to apologize twice because he had to walk clear across the room. My name is Stan Verhule. I live at 3400 North Timberwood, and I just want to apologize to all of you because it looks like we only have to pay the same amount as everybody else, and I think we get the greatest benefit. We're about the farthest from Holiday Road. I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done. I was there for some of the earlier meetings, and I want to speak 1,000% in support of doing this. I may be the only nut in the room who, when they did Holiday Road, just celebrated. There was something so exciting about that happening. And you know, if I get to see this happen in front of my house, I think I'm just going to run out there and hug everybody who's doing it. We're going to have a party or something.
Your house.
That's fine. We'll throw the party. I'm just excited about it. I have two questions that I think I know the answer to, but I just want to ask it. Number one is, we are past the point, do I understand, where the residents of this area vote anymore on this? This belongs now to the group in front of me.
Yes, by and large.
Okay, I'm really glad about that because I think it's time to get going. The second question is, you know, I've read carefully all of the, you know, we've had some modified numbers, and that is just, could they change dramatically? And for myself at least, I don't care if they do, and I don't have a ton of money, but this is so worth it.
Well, the commitment, when we sent this out and did a survey, we had to give people a number. We couldn't give them just a blank check, approve a blank check. So the survey that we sent out said not to exceed, I believe it was $450 per year for 15 years that you chose to go the finance route, or 55,000 something if you chose to prepay. That's the commitment, and the question, obviously the question is, what happens if the quote comes back higher than what the estimate was? Okay. And we have some contingencies built into that in case something like that happens. But we were very clear to the road commission, and we were very clear to Patrick when he went out there, we don't want to lowball this. We want to lay the number out there, and if anything, it'll come in less, and we perhaps can reduce those numbers. But we won't know the actual number until we get a the engineering packet put together and get it quotes.
Great. Thank you so much. There will be, I think, one traffic problem. You know, when you make those roads as nice as Holiday, people will ride on there just for fun.
Do you want speed bumps?
No bumps. Anybody else? Anybody? We really want to hear from you. Yes, in the back.
Denny Chase, live on Maplewood Lane. Just a quick question. I'm probably maybe jumping ahead here, but I know initially the talk was that if this got rolling, that we would be looking at, I think, originally I think it was, we were talking about maybe about June. I don't know if the Road Commission can address it. But I noticed in the last mailing it looked like it was either going to be maybe a little later in the summer to maybe even fall. So I was just trying to, what would be the timetable, I guess, if this does in fact get rolling like it appears to be?
I'd have to turn it over to the Road Commission and get their best estimate of, I guess what we have to do is get the packet put together to get a quote, and I think perhaps you can cover when we would hope to have the packet ready, when we would hope to have a quote back, and then I guess we'd be tied to the schedules of whoever does the actual work. And there's only a couple candidates that do that type of work in this area, so.
All right, before you say, our goal is to get this out as a bid package as early as possible. If you're familiar with construction work, when you have a bid package out earlier, you have a better chance of lining somebody up, probably getting a better price. Never promise of that, but trying to. So earlier, Garth, I think is that pretty well true in that industry?
Yes, that we always strive. I'm Garth Greenan from the Road Commission. We always strive to get our bid packages out as early as possible for the upcoming construction season, because historically we found that you do get better bids, and it also enables the contractors to better schedule their work for the upcoming year. We know there's going to be a lot of road construction. The state has a couple large projects coming up this year that will impact all of you living on this side, because they'll be redoing 31 and also 72. So there's a lot of work going on this year, but we'll try to, progress through this process as quickly as possible so we can get the bids in, and then the construction would be scheduled for this summer. But I don't think at this point we have an exact date during the summer when it would start.
Okay with the question? Okay. Gentleman back has enough. Well, let's let the lady go, and then we'll come back to you. Lady had her hand up here a second.
Hi, I'm Kathy Puan at 3388 Hardwood, and I live right at Maplewood and Hardwood, the corner. So just a concern that Maplewood is not included with this. I know it's Acme Township, but that's a horrible road, and a lot of the drainage goes down right into my yard. So I'm concerned that that's not going to be fixed. So Gordy came out and took a look at it. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Well, we are going to come down Maplewood and make that turn along the side of your house. You're on the corner, so the print that they're working under, Patrick's looking at right now, covers both sides of your house. But yes, we do stop just at your property line, heading whatever way that is on Maplewood. Yeah, you can see where there's the crust up there and the stuff does come down. And hopefully, and that's one of the big, in discussing with Patrick and with the Road Commission, the project's way beyond just laying in some new asphalt. It's the base that has to be addressed, in addition to the asphalt and the drainage. And there are various easements up there that some of you probably don't even know about, where water will be directed, and I'm sure they'll do everything they can to address that. And I've talked a little bit about Patrick, and as this gets further along, we'll take a look at some of those issues. Because the last thing we want to do is have water come down a hill, because it will just erode the new asphalt, the new base we just put in. So.
John, I think back to the back. You got one there? Okay, then we'll get this gentleman.
I'm Sandy DeMarsh. I live on 3320 Basswood, and I've lived there for 31 years. And I'm probably the only person here that doesn't want this to happen at my cost. I am really appalled that I'm expected to pay for this when those roads have been neglected for so many years. And it's okay to say you don't have the money, but why should I pay for what you haven't saved for? I've replaced my roof, my flooring, did my landscaping, I saved for it, I planned for it, and I paid for it. And so I don't understand, because you don't have the money, that everybody's happy that we get to pay it for you. And I just think it's totally irresponsible of the road commission and the township. You have the waterfront that's been paid for. Where has our tax money gone for the last 31 years if this has not been addressed in 31 years? Who is going to monitor that this is done the way it's supposed to be? Who's going to control the quality of the road? And I can't even take it off on my taxes, and it's supposed to last 15 years. So what's that mean? I get to start all over again? So just put it on my taxes and at least let me deduct it. No response.
Well, I mean, I probably won't be able to say anything that's going to satisfy your concerns. As far as the township having the funds, if you were to come to a meeting, and people are welcome to sit through our budget process, which we have in a May-June timeframe, to think that the township has the funds to handle all of the local roads in Acme Township, it's not even, I mean, the tax money that you pay to the township on your property taxes is less than a very small percentage, and none of it is earmarked for roads. The only money we have for roads, that are set aside for roads, is money we get specifically from the state, and amounts about $6,000 or $7,000 per year. So it's not going to make a huge dent in fixing the roads. Now, the township is making a $100,000 contribution.
That's 7%.
$100,000 is $700,000 total budget is a significant amount. Again, all I can say is if citizens are concerned that the township is not spending the money in the right services, you really need to come to the, it's an open meeting, it's a public hearing, much like this, where we go over the budget and show where the allocations are. The road commission, why don't they have the money? If you read the paper, pretty much all the road commissions are in the same position. Special assessment districts are not unique. They are done over and over and over again in townships and villages and cities throughout Michigan, due to the fact that the road commissions just don't have the money. I'm not going to get into that. I don't have anything to do with their funding. It's in the paper. Everybody agrees that the road commissions aren't getting adequate funds for roads. That's why roads throughout Michigan are in horrible shape. We can complain about it and say it's not right, and I can't disagree with you, but at the end of the day, if all we do is complain about it, we'll have the same roads in 15, and 16, and 17, and 18, and beyond. So it's the option. No one likes this, but you got to be realistic, unfortunately.
I would add that all money that any county road commission gets for roads comes out of our gas tax. It's not anything but gas tax money. And if I look at what I used to get on a car at 10 and 15 miles a gallon compared to modern cars today that get 25 and 30, there is just less tax money being spent by the people at the pump, which means less tax money to give back to any road commission to do the work. We looked at a lot of the roads, this particular case. If we had to wait for the present millage, it could be 20 years before we got roads done, just to go through the entire county. It's that far off. So none of your real estate tax money goes to roads. That's all out of gas tax millage. As Gordy said, it's not a pretty picture, but it's what we have to deal with. We think this is, and we think that some of our citizens think this is the best way to at least approach this and get it done. We did get the tribe, through the people working with them, to do Holiday Road at about $1.5 million. And at that time, the township did put up $10,000, East Bay put up $10,000, and the road commission put up $10,000. So we did get some return there out of our money by matching and help. So there's a lot of things going on. We have other roads in the township we're trying to do the same thing with. But unfortunately, we are where we are on a road that wasn't built with a quality standard. I can't go back in 30 years and do anything about that. I've got to push forward. So.
How will that quality be managed?
The road
I
commission,
understand that road wasn't finished when it was done. They were supposed to put another layer and they didn't. So who's going to control that?
Garth, you want to help us answer that?
This road will be done under the observation of the road commission, or we'll probably work with the consultant on it. But we'll be responsible for assuring that the work done on the road meets our standards and our specifications as it goes along. So we've built a lot of roads this year, and we've watched the quality very closely to make sure that what's being done meets the standards.
Okay, and what about the 15-year longevity? Then what happens? Do we have to do this all over again? So why can't we put it on our taxes?
The 15 years, there's nobody that can tell you. If anyone tells you how long a road's going to last, for sure, they're also going to try and sell you some snake oil.
That's what this says.
Now,
I'm sorry.
let me just finish. When you bond for something, you can't bond for something. If you do a 15-year bond, you couldn't bond for something that's only going to last 10 years. So we've said that this road should, and that's kind of a standard. It's not, it could last 20 years, it could last 25 years, or longer. Then there's the whole question of going in the future. This is a total reconstruct. This is a crush and shape, grind up the whole road, bring in new base, because the road is in such bad shape, just due to wear and tear, and the fact that it was built, it was substandard. And we did samples out there. There's places where there is no base, it's just down to sand. At some point in time, depending how well the road commission takes care of it on a repair basis, there will have to be additional work done. I mean, roads don't last forever. The next phase could be, at some point in time, just an overlay. Then they have ultra-thin overlays. So it's an ongoing thing. Now, you'd like to think that, based on what you've seen in the paper now, where finally the legislature, people are waking up saying, hey, the gas tax isn't cutting it, and at some point in time, things will kick in, and these road commissions will get funded differently. They'll be able to do better maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, that's sometime in the future. Where we are right now is, if you want a new road up there in the near future, it is what it is in a special assessment district. Unfortunately, is the only alternative. Like to tell you, just wait, and the road commission in a year, 2 years, 3 years, will come up and do local roads. If I were a betting man, I'd bet the farm it won't happen.
Okay, what about the bonding costs? How many houses how many real estates?
We've got 198 properties, and we know, here's the two things. We need to know, we have an estimate what the cost is. Once we know what the true cost is, and we know how many people want to prepay, then that leaves the amount that we have to bond for. The numbers that I've presented so far are the best guess estimate if nobody prepays and the bid comes in where our estimate is. Once the bond, once we know what the cost is, and people are given the option of prepaying, that'll obviously lower the amount we have to bond. At that time, that's what the bond company will bond for. And the interest rates are extremely favorable. I had a handout I think I gave out at the meeting at Mount Holiday, and it was what the counties, they're AA or AAA rated municipal bond. And
It was 12% over the cost, over a 15-year period, that's what.
if that's what it was, yeah.
Okay, so if you.
It was, I believe it varied between
But
2
in-
1/4 and
over 15
3.5%
years, it
or
was
something.
$1,200.
Pardon me?
Over 15 years, it calculated out to $1,200 on
Okay.
top of the cost of the share. So my question is, will their share be reduced by that if you pay up front, as well as the bond costs come off?
Yes.
The bond
Oh, absolutely.
costs.
If
So you're
you-
going to
if-
take $200 off of my bond cost also?
If,
The bond cost is $40,000 divided by 200.
no, that's if you're going to do a $1 million bond or a $900,000 bond, that's the number. So the answer is no, that's a fixed cost.
Thank you. The gentleman in the back, John, I think he had his hand up earlier, a couple of people go earlier, so thank you.
Yeah, I did, you know, I mean, the people on, yeah, geez, the people on Maplewood here do have a legitimate concern about where an awful lot of that water's gonna go. And I just kind of wonder if they didn't undercut that road and put some underground retention there. Is that possibly a way to deal with some of the water that might pool down in that area and let it just kind of disperse itself out to the sand over time? Because there is an awful lot of water that goes down through there, so.
What road?
On Maplewood.
The back exit out.
Over here from Maplewood, was talking about the water that collects in front of her house because she's in a low spot.
Excuse me, but I want to add, because we live on Maplewood too, and it's a problem all the way down
Yeah,
Maplewood, right up.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole low area through there, you know, for water.
Well, much like they did Holiday Road, they had to not only take care of the road, they had to take care of water, so there will be curbing. I'm not a civil engineer. I mean, we were up there, and I may have mentioned, when they did the preliminary tour up there, it was September 5th or 6th, the day after the big rain we had in early September. So although I was in a raincoat, he thought it was great because he was able to see where the runout was. And there are easements up there. There will be ditching have to be put in at certain places. There have to be curbing of some sort that directs water. So it's part of the solution.
Asphalt spillway, basically with that, and asphalt spillway stuff.
Yes.
Pretty elementary. I was gonna say, the lady who lives at the corner of Holiday and 5, Elmer's was out there, you know, through no fault of themselves. They put a culvert in, crossed her driveway and tagged that MDOT manhole there to get rid of the water that was coming in front of her house. I've often wondered what the county thought about where the hell all that water was gonna go, coming full bore down Holiday Road as it has. I'm in agreement with everybody in this room that the job and the quality of that ride coming down that hill today is just $1 million. But in a good rain, the water really seeps across the road, and there is an awful lot of water comes down to the Holiday and 5 Mile intersection. I don't know if anybody from the county is even taking 10 minutes to take a look at the catch basin. It's across from GJ's in front of a guy with the big corner lot there. I don't know, I guess it would be on the, say the northeast corner there, but that catch basin's got a rollback curve there, and I dare say you'd have to add 8 inches of water there to keep that catch basin take any water. But I'm just an observant guy, so. I know the lady works at the big party store. She lives on a little house in the corner down there. And a good rainstorm, she was getting a lot of water down the way, so it seems to be fixed there. But what has MDOT said down that way about taking all the water that might come down Holiday Road? They haven't about that. I can't comment on that. Garth, you have anything you want to or not?
I really can't because I wasn't involved in that project.
Right, nobody ever is.
But I know the road commission has looked at that, and that's certainly something that, if you so desire, we can get back with some additional information on that.
We're looking, from our engineering perspective, you're looking at the drainage as you look at the engineering beside you there.
Yeah, the engineering, during the engineering process, the drainage is probably as much of a challenge as the roadway surface is, and sometimes even more so. So that is something that, it's going to be looked at very closely.
Yeah, thank you. Kurt?
Kurt Rockout, 4357 East Timberwood.
Let's get you a microphone here.
Oh.
Right behind you.
Oh, hi, John. Yeah, the amount of water you're going to get coming down Greenwood from the top of the hill is going to intersect that underground crock on Holiday Road, and it's all going to pour right into that one catch basin at 5 Mile and Holiday Road. What is County Road Commission going to do to make sure that there's enough drainage here to properly move all that water? Because that is a bad spot there. And then the deal on Maplewood, yes, there's the duplexes right there aren't part of this SAD district, but they're right at the corner of Blackwood and Maplewood. There's a lot of water and sand that comes right from around that intersection down the hill to these people on Maplewood's property. Kind of washes them right out. There's a duplex there where the gentleman, maybe who owns the duplex, has made a circular driveway in his front yard with a new crock under the road. I have no idea whether or not he pulled permits for that, but that gravel is already washing down that hill into this lady's yard. So the road commission is going to have to come out and really take a look at a few of these areas where there is real heavy erosion. So, thank you.
Gordy, can I make a request?
Sure.
Public input is always extremely helpful to us and the audience here. Anybody who sticks around after the meeting who has the time and would like to come up, I've got a map of the area and these specific locations you're talking about. I'd love to get them on the map so we know we can take care of them. Okay?
Thank you. We appreciate that. You have another question there? Yes.
Kathy Chase, and I live on Maplewood too, and I was just hoping that you'd basically say what you just said, that you would take people's input that live here, because we have different kinds of rains here. Some aren't so bad, and some of them are really bad. And I've seen my neighbor right next to me have, like, from the road back to their house, like 20 foot of water, and it's deep. And you don't see it all the time. So if you came one time, you'd see it, and another time you wouldn't. And we get a lot in ours too, and so we were just really concerned. And also, what the people said about the upper part of Maplewood, and I don't know how that can be addressed, but just if you're aware of it and you're willing to take input from people that live here, I guess that's all we can ask, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll be glad to read that. I will address anything outside the township. Unfortunately, East Bay, even though we connect in many places to East Bay or other townships, have not been interested in moving towards this at this point. It could be this opportunity for us will be a catalyst for some of them to say, let's see if East Bay will work with us. But it has to be by township and tax rules by township. So, if you hold on just a minute. Anybody else? Any questions? There's a young lady, that's her first, so we can.
Hi, I'm Carol Crawford. I actually live at 4755 Springbrook Drive. I'm also your county commissioner-elect, and I'll take office in January. I have a couple quick questions about the curbs and gutters. Are those going to be everywhere or only where absolutely necessary for drainage? There aren't curbs and gutters now, so that's my question there.
Curbs and gutters.
Right. So are those only going to be where it's absolutely necessary for drainage?
There are no curbs and gutters.
Right. And are you going to put them everywhere or only where it's specifically necessary for drainage purposes? And then I have another question.
I'm guessing you're speaking of what we would call HMA valley gutters. They won't be made out of concrete. They'll be made out of out of asphalt and lift up. And Autobahn, yeah, just raised up to hold the water. And not everywhere. There are some flat areas that don't necessarily need them. They're usually on grades where the water's coming down and we need to control them. So.
Okay. And my other question is, have you considered any other calculating methods for deciding how much a property owner would pay, as opposed to dividing it by 198 property owners? Have you looked at all at assessing according to possibly frontage on the road? Just a question. It was a question that was brought up to me, and I wondered what...
That obviously, there's many different ways on a special assessment district in which you can assess. The two most common is by frontage, and second is just by a per parcel. Pretty much everyone I looked into, and this was a decision that we kind of made. Everyone I looked into, people I've talked to did it on a per parcel basis, where it made sense, where you had commonality on the properties. I mean, if you had an area where one parcel was a quarter-mile long, and then you had a parcel that was 100 front foot, and there was a lot of variances, then you would look at it on a frontage basis. But if you look at subdivisions that are built out, like this one is, the vast majority are done on a per parcel basis.
So we did consider both methods.
Okay, that was the question, thank you.
Sorry? Anybody else?
I just wanted to just talk to the lady here on Basswood. I thought she raised a good point, kind of about the quality of the road and how long it would last and who would maintain it, because obviously they haven't been maintained. And so my question is, if this goes through, the residents pay for it, would the county down the road maintain it? Let's say if it does in 10 years need a, I think you just called it like maybe a
overlay?
Yeah, a thin coat or something. Is that something the county does in subdivisions, or would that fall back on the residents again? I guess I just need a little clarification there. At what point does the county kind of step in and say, okay, we'll maintain it? Because as far as I understand, the roads are so bad right now, basically all we're going to get is fill in the potholes. But if you have a road that would probably be a 10, on a scale of 10, hopefully after this was done, would the county down the road assume the maintenance of it? Or would that, again, fall back to the residents?
Well, when you use the word maintenance, what I think they're going to say is the road commission will be responsible for maintenance of it. For example, if a pothole develops, they would come out and fix the pothole. I would think if reflective cracking takes place, they would have a responsibility, and it would be under their maintenance to come out and do the seal the cracks. Now, if you're talking, I believe, I'd be interested myself, if you're talking overlay at some point in time,
yeah.
well, right now, right now, in talking to the road commission, an overlay is a project beyond just normal maintenance, and typically that would fall outside of that. But you know, I guess the question is that he'll give an answer now on current conditions. We're all hopeful that the legislature gets their act together and funds these things, and hopefully at some future date it will be built into your gas tax, and that's the way it'll be funded. But
yeah, of course the funding is a big issue, and we're very hopeful that the legislature is going to come through with some additional funding there. I know they're working real hard on it now. But in terms of general maintenance, crack sealing, there's lots of different, work on the shoulders. There's lots of things we do. We use what's called a mix-up fixes for depending on the condition of the road. And one of our objectives is to take care of these roads before they get so bad that you have to go through what you're doing now in terms of a reconstruction. We're using a combination of things like chip seal with the fog that we've used on a number of locations. We've used that over on West and South Long Lake and down on County Line Road. It gives a very good surface, and these were roads that on a scale from 1 to 10 were down to 5s, 4s even. So we're able to rehabilitate them without spending an awful lot of money. Just the normal maintenance that's required after 3 or 4 or 5 years, such as crack sealing, we do that. So it would be the intention of the road commission to maintain these roads, to do the normal maintenance. You know, I can't predict what funding's going to do in 10 or 15 years. I don't think any of us can, but our goal is, once we have roads that are in good shape, is to maintain them carefully so they last as long as possible. And we can use a variety of different preventive maintenance techniques to do that that are cost effective. One of the first ones that you end up using is crack sealing. So in a few years, all roads crack, but if you get out and crack seal them, it prevents a lot of the moisture from penetrating into the base material, and it extends the life of the road. A technique after that might be either Durapatching if there's areas that need it, or chip sealing, and that could come after 10 years and can take a road from a 4 or a 5 back up to a level 8. And this is sort of industry standard numbers. They range from 1 to 10 scale. So it would be the intent of the road commission to maintain these, just as we're doing with a lot of the other roads that we're working on right now.
One of the things I think everybody knows, but the road commission has committed us $250,000 to this. We're one of the biggest SAD districts they've ever done, one of the first of this kind for a long time. Usually a SAD district's 10 or 15 houses. They're not a million dot some project. So this is a massive undertaking. Building it right, not overbuilding it, but building it right guarantees a lot better longevity. There's things that sometimes you do by cutting down, thinking you're saving money, and in the long range you're not. So I think we're at the kind of the right spot to be there with our engineers' help and guidance. So that's been a tremendous benefit to us to have that matching money. It helps the money we have go a lot farther. So we want to move on, but if there's any real burning question, please put your hand up. Otherwise, Will, there's a young lady out there. Either way, which you pick, John, you're back there.
Yeah, I hate standing up so many times, but you know, the state of Michigan and the county road commission's got to do something about lessening the weight on our roads. Get rid of 8-axle trailers and the big weights that they haul. Gravel trains, hauling gravel. You were Elmers today, you were Molan today, you were Reed Riley today, everybody going to picking up gravel. What do you think it weighs? Think anybody's weighing that gravel train leaving? I doubt it. Until we get control of that in the state of Michigan and lessen the weight, Grand Traverse County Road as well as Oakland County roads, Emmett County roads, Charlotte County roads, and never going to fix these roads that can fixed. Another thing is I think it should be a cool idea if somebody went up in the Holiday Hills in our whole area and maybe staked out these right-of-ways. I live on Bass, but as I've said, most of my neighbors have finer yards than I'll probably ever have. Most of their green grass is within inches of the asphalt. Don't think that they realize that a good bit of their green grass is in our right-of-way. And I think it'd be really cool for all my neighbors in Holiday Hills to see just how much really is owned by right-of-way. I mean, I've got a cabin in Calcasas I've had since the 70s. And if I was stupid enough to want to build something within 8-10 foot of my dirt road that I'm on, that's county property, it's not mine. Coal patch, just a wonderful thing. You know, I mean, what does it cost in the road commission today for the umpteenth time to go out on 31, out by the Hampton Inn, and everybody else to coal patch that road again? You know, I know it's going to get brand new next year, and they're going to pull all that concrete out of there. But boy, oh boy, that's a lot of money. I'm done babbling, because I can babble forever.
Thank you.
But the engineering on this job, you know, this isn't just the asphalt like you guys are talking. There's a little bit of intelligent engineering that's got to go into this. So how are you going to deal with all that water?
We do have a new road commission group in the last, what, year and something?
Most of us.
Yeah, most of us are recent within the past 2 years. I've been there a year. Just to comment on one of your comments, I agree with you on the weight limits. I am a weighmaster for the county, and if you do see overweight trucks, call me. I'll be out there with my scales. I will weigh them, and I will give them a ticket.
He does do that. That's right. I mentioned the newness because the change in the attitude, the direction, and many things is just much different than we've all seen in the past. It doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make all the little things go away overnight. But over time, it is going to make a big difference in how we as a county will come out. And as you as citizens that use those roads, not only in your own neighborhood, but other places, will see improvements. And it's getting there. I think we have a lady in the back that had another question.
I just had a concern, and really it's kind of focused towards the engineers, and maybe they already consider this, but we have wells where we live, and we don't get a choice to where they put our well, and they're all in different places, and some of them are closer to the road than others, you know, and when you start talking the right of way. So I just was hoping that they would think about that when they design the water drainage, you know, because we really don't want to get water runoff into a place where a well is going to be. So I don't know if they think about that, because maybe where they live, they don't have a well. So that was my only concern.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to bring us back to the board. I think we've heard some very good comments. We need to hear comments of all kinds. This is not just everybody that's always just for it, but we hear all the different things. The engineer said they'd be glad to answer some questions later, so we appreciate that. Guys, we're glad that you're here, and the engineer is here that's doing some of the engineering on this road already. So yeah, I think that's good. Gordy, at this point, I think we bring it back and are in the new business. Resolution number 3 is in front of us, so you want to cover that with the board real quick?
Okay, resolution 3 is pretty much a standard resolution that complies with the state statute and what you have to, the verbiage you have to have in a resolution. I don't take credit for drafting all the whereases and therefores up. And basically what it does is, after the public hearing, resolution 3 says the board is going to approve the project. We're going to follow through and get cost estimates and cause the special assessment rule to be prepared, which will be the subject of the second public hearing. What that is a very specific list in a very specific format of all the properties in the special assessment district that we'll get from the assessor with the name, the address, and what the cost is going to be per parcel. And where you would see a difference is it was on frontage, you would see a different pricing, but since we're going to go on a per parcel basis, it'll be a uniform amount. The amount will reflect the estimate, the best estimate we have right now, and it will be the cost per parcel, excuse me, the number of parcels divided into the cost of the project. It won't include interest. It won't show if you're going to do financing, but the way you display it is, here's your obligation. Now, obviously, if you choose to finance it, it'll be on a per year basis, and we'll show that number. But when you see the roll, That's what that is. So that's the first resolution before the board.
So, any questions from the board?
One thing I've seen, Gordy, is the 450 figure annually if they do finance it. Do they have the option of 2 1/4 each tax cycle, or is it 450 in their summer? You know what I mean? Is it? Do you know, or
No, I'm not aware of any. It would be any violation of the statute, but you have to look at when the bond payments are due, the mailings cost of doing that. I haven't, to be very honest with you, I haven't thought of that, but I haven't talked to anybody or seen any where they've done it that way. That doesn't say it can't be done.
They're normally done in the winter billing, because that's when townships statutorily levy their taxes. And so you normally insert it potentially on a separate bill. It will not show up on the tax bill if they decide to do it that way, but as a separate insert at the same time as the winter tax.
Well,
December.
Yeah, and something I don't know, and it's, we get past this point, then we get into the nitty gritty of, okay, when will the project be done? When do we have to pay the bill? When does the first bond payment come due? We have to sort that all out, but my guesstimate, it would be, the best I can guess at this point in time is it would be sometime in the winter of 25th, next year. It would be the first installment if you were to choose to finance.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anybody? Otherwise, I look for a motion to approve resolution number 3, Acme Township number 41. It's resolution 3 for the SAD, but it's a township. We have to keep track of all resolutions. So it'll be then Acme Township, resolution 2014-41. So I have a motion to approve that.
Motion, I'll make the motion to approve resolution, resolution number 3 for Acme Township, Holiday Hills Area Subdivision Road Improvement Special Assessment Project, approving the project, developing cost estimates, special assessment of the special assessment district, causing the special assessment rule to be prepared.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll support.
Kathy? Oh, Bachman, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Roll call.
Roll call on this, do you? Okay, roll call, Nancy.
Dye. Yes. Genema. Yes. LaPointe.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Zellinger.
Yes.
Ackerman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution number 4. Resolution number 4 actually helps us set the next hearing, the December 11th date we talked about earlier. Gordy, do you want to give us any more word on that?
Yeah, what this is we create the role, the supervisor's directed to create the role, the official role that lists all 198 properties, who the owner is, and what the cost is. And you will get that information in a mailing, but it's a document that he keeps. And the purpose of that public hearing that we're going to be calling for on this is if you have a issue with the, it's not a tax, but if you have an issue with the cost, let's say it's $5,000, and you just have a problem with it. Just like if you had a problem when the assessor assesses your property, it's your obligation at that next public hearing to inform the board that you have a problem or you object to the charge. You have to formally do that to this board. Once you do that, within 30 days, you can then go and appeal it to the state tax tribunal. Again, same thing as if the assessor valued your property at $100,000 and you said it should be $80,000. You go to the township, you plead your case. If you didn't get satisfaction, you have 30 days to go to the tax tribunal. That's on a per individual basis. Everybody goes and does it on their own. It's not a class action. You pay a fee, you fill out a form, and there's a process. And if you're interested in that process, you can Google Michigan Tax Tribunal, and they'll give you more information you care to know about how to take that process on. So that's what resolution, the next resolution,
Number 4. That'll be 42.
42?
Yeah, resolution 4, Acme Township 42, 2014-42.
And again, there's specific requirement of a public hearing. There's a specific window of when we have to have it, of notice, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you'll see postings in the paper, like you did for this public hearing, and you'll get a first-class letter in the mail. Minimum of 10, as a matter of fact, it'll be mailed out tomorrow, notifying you of that meeting. They'll pretty much have the same information in the first notice you have. There's nothing much to add to that.
All of these resolutions are by statute. We have to go through these each time, whether you're in our township, some other township, or down any place. It's just the process and procedure. So you will see probably multiple papers that look very similar with a little twist for another hearing or another this or that. So you know, it just keep all those copies. It's important.
So I'll make a motion. I guess we can discuss.
I need a motion for
resolution number 4, Acme Township, Holiday Hills Area Subdivision Road Improvement Special Assessment District. Resolution of acknowledging the filing of the special assessment roll, scheduling the second hearing, and directing the issuance of statutory notices.
Support. Worked by White. Right. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions from the board? Nancy, without another question, roll call, please.
Gentlemen?
Yes.
LaPointe?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Solinger?
Yes.
Ackerman?
Yes.
Dye? Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Our last resolution tonight is one that was listed on the agenda as number 1, but we changed that. This is a resolution to authorize engineering design survey for this area earlier than we would sometimes, but to get this done now so we're ready for that spring bid, that spring opportunity to get out to the contractor. So it will be Acme Township 43. It does not have a SAD number because it's in the resolution to spend money. That's why it's money for this SAD district, this opportunity. Go ahead, Gordy.
The reason we're kind of jumping the gun on this, the first step in the engineering is a field survey, getting out there, and the issues that you're raising, getting that done. And the quote that we got back is $21,750 to do that. We probably normally wouldn't shove this right through right after we do the resolution, but I was going to say winter's coming, but winter's here. So they have to get out before we get all the snow to see what's going on and do the survey work, which is the first part of the project. So we're kind of pushing this thing through to authorize the expenditure of $21,750 of our SAD budget, which is within the total cost of the project that's been estimated to move forward. So that's what this is here for.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this? Hearing none, I'd like a motion for approval. Did you have a question, Paul? Sorry.
Is the engineering done by the county or is it private?
Private. It's under the county's authority, done by a private firm. Is that fair?
You subcontract.
Subcontractor for the county. Okay?
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Thank you. Any other question on this? This will be a roll call since we're spending money.
LaPointe?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Solinger?
Yes.
Ackerman?
Yes.
Dye? Yes.
Jenema?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, the public and the people here tonight, and your support. There will be more meetings. Please come to those meetings. I know that sometimes people think, oh, I heard this meeting, I don't need to hear the next, but it is helpful to know you're here and we get input from you. We appreciate that. We do at the end of this meeting have another time for public comment, which we are at this time. So I'll open that for the public again. If there's any other last public comment. I do not, oh, I'm sorry, Rochelle?
Yeah, Rochelle, Acme. I just wanted to let everyone here know that a group of concerned citizens, CCAT, offers a couple of public service options for all and everyone in Acme. It's group driven. What we offer is this video, and this video goes up on, and I have to read this because I'm not sure. This video, if you're interested, will be on Facebook, Concerned Citizens Acme Township, or under YouTube, CCAT. So if you ever want to watch any of the business meetings for Acme, you can go to either Facebook or YouTube and view these videos that we take here. Another thing that we offer, and we would need an email address, is just a public notice of when these meetings are and what they're going to be for Acme Township. So you can stop by, let me know if you want to give me your email or if you need more information about videos. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it back to the board. Any other business from the board tonight? If not, yes.
Just those that had comments about the drainage, make sure you go see the engineer over at the table so we can get that documented.
Please.
That's it. Just a reminder, friendly reminder.
That's good. Thank you. Otherwise, I'll take a motion from the board to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Support.
Support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Again, thank you all for coming this cold night.
You know,